Welcome back to Extra Holiday Games. I'm Extra Holiday, and if you like this episode, feel free to like. No. I know I just made that joke at the end of the last episode, but. Last Mario Maker episode, I should say, because technically these videos are staggered, so the last episode was a Bloodborne episode, but you know, whatever. I said, last Mario Maker episode, I made the LCS joke. And it's I'm not funny. I'd just like to point that out. You probably already knew that, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna use the same joke twice, you know? But then again, what would the internet be if not for reusing the same joke over and over and over and over and over and over? I mean, that's what a meme is, right? And there are variations that sprout. But overall, the idea is, you know, take this thing, do it again and again and again and another one. You know? And don't get me wrong, I love memes. But they are absolutely a testament to repetition. You know, it's just over, doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and another one. So yeah, don't let anyone tell you any different. Okay. Decent. Okay, platform. Okay, platform. Speaking of platforms, this is probably gonna be old news by the time this episode comes out. But I am fairly amused, probably more than I should be, with the fact that Facebook lost like $230 billion worth in a day. It's kind of insane. As you may be able to tell, I don't really use Facebook much. In fact, hardly at all. Like if someone messages me on Facebook, I'll answer it, but that's about all I do. Because nowadays, when I think of Facebook, I don't think of what it was when I was in school. You know, I don't think of, well, yeah, a bunch of teenagers posting stuff about, you know, how their weekends were, how their breaks were, or, you know, like, oh man, I can't believe Robbie from the geology class said that. No, it's not that anymore. That is definitely not what Facebook is anymore. More accurately, I feel, Facebook is, we call them boomers, but they're actually like Gen X, is a bunch of people from prior generations hanging out and just feeding each other what they want to hear. And that is maybe a little dangerous. Maybe just a little. Maybe a little. I feel like there are not a whole lot of sources, or, you know, better, quote unquote, sources, more effective sources, I'll put it that way, for misinformation than Facebook. Because essentially the audience for Facebook in this day and age, at least I'm at least talking about like the US. I'm not necessarily, I believe I've heard that a lot of younger people from, I got crushed, younger people from other countries use Facebook. I feel like, if I recall correctly, that's like the primary audience of Facebook gaming. However, the audience for Facebook proper in the United States and potentially the rest of the Western world is a bunch of people who definitely did not grow up with the internet. You know, they didn't grow up with easy mass communications. And as a result, they are less practiced than, say, you or me in deciphering what is and isn't accurate or truthful, or rooting out people with intent to deceive, or people with ulterior motives, that sort of thing. So because they don't have a whole lot of practice, and because they're older, and older people tend to have a harder time learning things, I hate to say it, but they potentially are more easily fooled. Which is kind of funny, considering age is supposed to make you wiser, but it also can make you less tolerant to change and less prone to learning things. And as a result, in a world where it's very important to be learning new things, because things are changing very quickly, faster than they ever have, really. Yeah, it leaves you vulnerable. So frankly, I'm not too upset at, the people who believe the hype, quote unquote, on Facebook. The people who are misled. I'm not terribly upset at them. The people I am upset at are the people misleading them. The people who take it upon themselves to further their own agenda by spreading misinformation and manipulating people and stuff like that. It's ultimately not a totally new problem, but it is an old problem with a new facet, where there is almost an entire platform of people who are, let's say, easy marks. And that's a little troublesome. So, ultimately, to bring this back around, the fact that Facebook lost a lot of its worth, and mind you, it's still worth more than, 100 of my lives, but the fact that it lost a lot of its worth feels like some amount of justice, I don't know how many problems would be solved if Facebook as a platform disappeared. Honestly, there's a good chance that the people would just find a different place to go. Right? The bad people, quote unquote, who have their own agendas. They're pushing their own, the deceptive kind. They would probably find, different marks in different areas. And it would be probably just as problematic. But I like to think that, getting rid of the Facebook, that's a meme. Getting rid of Facebook might help. I would like to think, Maybe. Because at least if those people are moving to a different platform, then they have to mix with the crowd that's already there, and maybe that'll change things, I think honestly one of the solutions might be, and this is just something I just thought of, is to, try and bridge the age gap, you know? Well, that's awkward. Try and make it so this is honestly, this is kind of on me and other people my age, which I assume the people watching this are relatively close to that. It's really on us, I think, to keep these sorts of things in check, you know? To address inaccuracies where they lie, and to seek out deception and root it out, so that the more gullible among us, among us, so that the more gullible among us do not fall for it, you know? So that they are better protected from those sorts of people. And it's not easy, you know, it's not an easy thing to do, right? I have a hard time talking to certain people that I know that might be having exactly that sort of issue, you know, where they're being fed information that isn't necessarily true or is extremely biased or something like that. You know, there are some people in my life who are rather important to me that I feel have potentially fallen into that trap. Ow. And it's hard for me to talk to them about it, you know? Partly because of me as a person. I am, as I've stated before, I am a very non-confrontational type of person, but it would probably be better if I you know, talked it out with them, you know? I said, hey, why do you think that? And we discussed, you know? We discussed about what they've learned, what I've learned, shared information, and figured out together what is and isn't right. Ow. But it's hard. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy because I have rarely ever actually managed to do it. And it's even harder to do it without getting terribly upset about it, you know, because there's the saying, cooler heads prevail. And I believe it. I do. I think a lot of the times people will stop listening if they get particularly upset. And honestly, I'm pretty sure there's some scientific basis in that when people feel they are in danger, when they feel they are threatened, they tend to, you know, the fight or flight tends to activate, where you're focusing on a very narrow set of things. And in doing so, while it is useful in some scenarios, in other scenarios, it is to your detriment, because you could be looking... You sometimes miss the forest for the trees, as they say. Where you're too focused on the small details to see the greater picture. And yeah, that's... And again, I'm not trying to say that I'm immune to that sort of thing either. I also, and in fact, I'm saying the opposite. When I get heated having these sorts of discussions, I recognize that I'm not seeing... I'm not listening as well as I could be, right? So yeah, that's where a lot of the struggle comes in, is just trying to... I think I've mentioned this quote before. In fact, it was probably even in the series, might even have been on this level. But there's a League of Legends character who I don't particularly like, but she has a quote that I do like. It's Seraphine, and she says, "A lot of people fight to be heard. I fight to listen." And I do think that is rather poetic in a way, because it can be a fight to listen, right? It can be hard to actually stop being defensive and to actually hear what the other person is saying. You know, it's hard. And I think a lot of people make it out to be like it's easy, and a lot of people just expect people to do that. But yeah, it's not as simple as it seems a lot of the time. I could have made that work. And maybe I'll make it work next time, because as for this episode, that's a wrap. Yes, welcome to the Gospel of Extra Holiday.